The Usos have snapped. After months of positioning themselves as the dominant force in tag team wrestling, after carrying themselves with an arrogance that seemed almost untouchable, they've unleashed absolute carnage on an unexpected target. Ishowspeed cost them their tag team championships, and the Usos responded with a vicious attack that left no doubt about their willingness to destroy anyone who stands in the way of their dominance. This isn't just another backstage brawl, this is a statement about power, about respect, and about what happens when you cross a family that refuses to accept being dethroned. This is the story we're breaking down right here on WWE Express. Let's start by understanding what led to this moment, because the build to the Usos' explosion is absolutely crucial to understanding why their response was so visceral. The Usos have been tag team champions seemingly forever, carrying those titles with a swagger that demanded recognition. They faced incredible teams, overcome enormous odds, and established themselves as one of the most formidable duos in professional wrestling. But there's something that happens when you hold a position of dominance for that long. People start gunning for you. The hunger from rising tag teams becomes almost tangible. Every team you face enters that match believing they're the ones capable of being the ones to take your titles. Ishowspeed represents something completely different from the traditional tag team wrestling landscape. He came into this situation with momentum, with an audience that was genuinely invested in his success, and with an energy that's genuinely captivating. But Ishowspeed also came with something that the Usos absolutely couldn't tolerate: the implication that he could somehow compete at their level, that he could walk into a championship match and walk out with their titles. For the Usos, who have built their entire identity on being the elite, the premier tag team that cannot be touched, the idea that Ishowspeed could cost them their championships is beyond offensive. It's an existential threat to their positioning. The match itself must have been executed in a way that made Ishowspeed's cost feel particularly devastating. Maybe it was a distraction at the precise moment it mattered most. Maybe it was an interference that directly led to the Usos losing their grip on the titles they've held for so long. Whatever the mechanism, the result is the same. The Usos went from being invincible champions to being former champions, and Ishowspeed had a direct hand in that transformation. In professional wrestling, there are few things more offensive than losing your championships in a way that feels tainted, that feels like it wasn't earned through superior wrestling but through circumstance and interference. The Usos' immediate response of attacking Ishowspeed isn't just about anger, it's about reclamation. When you've held a position of dominance and it's taken from you in a way that feels unjust, your first instinct is to prove that the outcome was a fluke, that the other person got lucky, and that you're still the superior force. An attack of the magnitude described here serves multiple purposes simultaneously. It's punishment for Ishowspeed's involvement. It's a message to the locker room that crossing the Usos has consequences. And it's a declaration that despite losing the titles, the Usos remain the most dangerous force in tag team wrestling. What makes this angle genuinely fascinating is how it positions the Usos in a specific character space. They're not heroes fighting against injustice, they're returning champions who refuse to accept being dethroned and are willing to be aggressive and destructive to remind everyone of their status. This kind of character work is incredibly valuable because it creates a moral ambiguity that wrestling audiences find captivating. The Usos aren't wrong to be upset about losing their championships in this way, but their response is disproportionate and brutal. That tension between justified anger and excessive reaction is what creates compelling character psychology. Ishowspeed, meanwhile, finds himself in a completely different position. He achieved the remarkable feat of costing the seemingly invincible champions their titles, but that victory comes with a price that's being paid in physical punishment. This creates an interesting narrative question: was costing the Usos their championships worth the price of their wrath? Ishowspeed now has to deal with the Usos as enemies, and they've made it absolutely clear that they're willing to destroy him. That's not a comfortable position to be in, and it opens up incredible storytelling possibilities going forward. The broader implications of this angle extend far beyond the Usos and Ishowspeed individually. This moment signals that tag team wrestling is entering a phase where intensity is being escalated, where consequences are being demonstrated in physical terms, and where the stakes feel genuinely high. When championship changes result in this kind of reaction, it reinforces that those championships actually matter. They matter so much that the Usos would risk everything to either reclaim them or make sure that whoever took them understands the cost of doing so. There's also a fascinating question about what comes next for the Usos as former champions. Championship reigns eventually end, but the way they end matters enormously for character development. If the Usos simply accepted losing their titles and moved on to other projects, they'd be weakened as a force. But by responding with absolute aggression and making it clear that they view this as a temporary setback rather than an ending, they maintain their status as the most dangerous team in the division. They're essentially saying that they'll be coming for those titles again, and anyone currently holding them should understand what they're walking into. The attack itself, described as destructive and absolute, serves as visual storytelling that doesn't require dialogue or explanation. Fans watching that assault unfold understand immediately that the Usos are serious, that they're not going to accept this situation quietly, and that they represent a genuine threat to anyone positioned across from them. That kind of clarity of character is invaluable in professional wrestling because it creates instant comprehension about who these people are and what they're willing to do. From a narrative structure perspective, this angle also creates the foundation for multiple possible directions. The Usos could be positioned for an immediate rematch angle where they challenge the new champions. Ishowspeed could be positioned as an underdog who's somehow going to have to overcome the Usos' wrath to prove his worth. There could be a faction element where the Usos recruit allies to help them either reclaim the titles or systematically destroy Ishowspeed's credibility. The beauty of professional wrestling is that one moment of violence can branch off into dozens of different storytelling possibilities. What's particularly interesting about Ishowspeed being in this position is that it creates a genuine David versus Goliath dynamic. The Usos are established, they're dangerous, they're experienced, and they've made it abundantly clear that they're willing to be brutal. Ishowspeed is someone who achieved something remarkable but is now facing the full force of their retaliation. That's a character arc with genuine dramatic potential. Will Ishowspeed find a way to survive the Usos' onslaught? Will he enlist allies? Will he find a path back to challenging for the titles despite the physical and psychological damage they're inflicting on him? The wrestling audience responds to moments like this because they represent genuine stakes. It's not just about winning and losing, it's about pride, about respect, about the consequences of your actions. The Usos attacking Ishowspeed after losing the championships isn't presented as a random act of violence, it's presented as a justified response to an offense that's absolutely unforgivable in their world. The Usos were the best, and someone they apparently didn't take seriously enough cost them their position. That's the kind of narrative tension that keeps audiences engaged. This moment also serves a larger function in tag team wrestling storytelling. It reinforces that the championship is a position of genuine importance, that holding it comes with targets on your back, and that losing it has real consequences for everyone involved. When championship matches feel consequential at this level, when the emotions are running this high and the physical responses are this intense, it elevates everything connected to that championship. The next tag team title match will carry weight because everyone watching will remember the Usos' destruction of Ishowspeed and understand that championships matter in this world. For breaking down all the character psychology, the narrative implications, and the genuine wrestling analysis behind moments like this, you need to be watching WWE Express. We don't just recap what happened, we explore why it happened, what it means for these characters going forward, and how it connects to the larger stories being told across WWE programming. Subscribe to WWE Express right now, because the aftermath of this attack is going to create storylines that matter, and you're going to want to understand every layer of what's actually happening.